but that's right. All righty. Let's see. We're up for 8 seconds. They probably heard some background noises, but we are live with Mr. Caleb Anderson today, which is awesome. One of our team members at Sukup Real Estate Services. Today, we're going to specifically talk to you about things that are happening in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado in 2025, as well as some developments. That's kind of going to be the focus. This is the last week before, I believe, actually, City Council meets for the first time in like 3 weeks tomorrow. So next week, we'll go over some more City Council reviews and things that are going on. But there's some big things that are happening with City Council this year. So I'm excited to discuss a little bit about that today. But otherwise, tomorrow, we are also going to go live at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to do our market update as well as 2025 market predictions. So excited about that. It was kind of fun going back through and looking at our predictions for 2024 and seeing how we fared. And I've kind of been all over the place. I think I started doing those predictions in 2021, and I was so far off for 2022 and 2023 was not bad, but last year I was actually kind of spot on. So I'm excited to get in with that. But Caleb, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with things to do in Fort Collins in 2025. And I'll kind of start with a few of them, but, feel free to jump in whenever. But one of my favorite events of Fort Collins is Taste of Fort Collins 2025 and Tour de Fat. Those are going to be two of the kind of the feather in the cap deals for Fort Collins, and something that I look forward to each year. How about you? Now Taste of Fort Collins generally is in early June. Tour de Fat, Labor Day weekend. When CSU played CU every year, it was kind of like you either went to the Tour de Fat or you went to the CSU CU game. But with that kind of being on hold for, I think, the next 4 years,
yep,
you can just go to Tour de Fat every year.
My personal favorite is the lighting ceremony, actually, which we're almost a full calendar year out from. But end of November, when Old Town turns on all their lights and the square everybody gets gathered together and there's some fun events down there. That's my personal favorite outing in all of Fort Collins.
Yeah. One thing, have you looked into or going to any of the events at the Lincoln Center?
The Lincoln Center is pretty sweet. I've not attended anything, but they host a variety of different events. Things that kind of tickle different people's fancies. I think they've got a lot of things going on this year. So while I've not attended, they've got a ton of different fun stuff.
Yeah, there's actually this spring of 2025. They send it out. This comes in with the Recreator. This month, actually, here in about 10 days, Janae and I are going to Marlon Wayne's. He's
nice.
making an appearance there for some comedy. Now, and there's other ones, like on March 17th, there is now, I don't know what his name is, but the dude from Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Nice.
Is going to be there. There's some ballet, there's plays. It's a pretty sweet venue. They're doing a lot of upgrades as well to it. I know some ADA specific type upgrades, but Lincoln Center is pretty sweet. We just went to the Nutcracker a few weeks back, and there's just it's underrated. I would say people aren't giving the Lincoln Center the notoriety that it needs. Now, one thing that I'm definitely not doing, and I'm really having this like internal debate. A few friends are doing like these cold plunges and like ice baths and things of that nature, like on like a daily or weekly basis. And when I was an athlete in college, I had to do them every day, and I hated them. And I just remember when I was done, I was like, I'm never doing these cold plunges again. But people are all about it. And there is the Polar Plunge at Horsetooth on January 25th. There's a 5K prior, but then afterwards there is the Polar Plunge, which I don't know about you. I'm not a big Polar Plunge kind of guy.
I actually don't hate it. Ironically, Peyton and I, my wife, were talking about it last night, and she wanted to know if everybody does it just for the gram because she sees them all over the place. But, I really enjoy a good ice bath. So I think you can either be all in or all out, but there's no in between. She said there's not enough money in the world to go get in.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with her. I mean, I like maybe, but I'm a hard no right now. let's see here. What else we got going on? Yeah, February 14th. If you're talking about the holiday lighting ceremony, we've got Valentine's Day coming up already. We are through the holiday season, and Valentine's Day is the last day where they have the holiday lights up. Then they turn them off until the following November. So make sure to get out there. They're up until, I mean, I come into my office around 7 a.m. and they're on until at least 7 a.m. I think turn off right at or around that time period. So go check that out. Great Plates, March 1st through the 14th. This is the Great Plates essentially is something to where when you're here, they give you a very discounted meal. They have kind of a pre-prepped or like a Great Plates meal that you can order, and tons of different downtown restaurants are a part of it. And kind of the theory behind it is, we're going to give you this discount, but we want you to give a big tip to go towards the Great Plates. And I believe it's like the food bank of Northern Colorado that gets these funds. So it's a great way to go and support restaurants who are then subsequently supporting the kind of local community from there.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. What else do we've got going on coming up this year? FOCO MX. I'm not a big music person. Being in Fort Collins, I talk about how amazing the music scene is. It really is. April 18th through the 19th. I mean, all over downtown Fort Collins. I can't remember how many venues have musical acts going, but it's a big deal in Fort Collins, Colorado. Are you a music guy? Do you go to the FOCO MX?
I don't go to FOCO MX. If I want music, we hit the Lyric sometimes, depending who's there. We ended up seeing, last year we saw, two different country artists there, kind of old school guys, and one cover band, a rock and roll cover band. And it's kind of nice because it's a smaller venue, but there's still plenty of fun shows. You can get in pretty easy with friends. That's one that we really like.
We'll get into some of the developments that are happening this year, but one of the things that happened was the old Lyric got torn down, and it seems like it's going to be an addition to the Armory that's going to be going on there, which, I've only been to one event there at the Armory, but it was super quaint. There's, I would say for a town of 180,000 people, we punch above our weight class for the music scene here for sure.
Absolutely.
Cirque du Soleil coming April 18th through the 20th at the Blue Arena. The Blue Arena brings in some pretty decent events, and we're going to talk about some of the development that the ranch complex has got going on here. But other than that, let's see here. Trolley starts up May 3rd, so that goes in through the fall. Open streets. Have you been to any of the open streets? This is apparently the 10-year anniversary of Fort Collins open streets. Do you know what open streets are first?
Fill me in.
Okay, so open streets is this concept where they want to show how bikeable and transit friendly Fort Collins is by shutting down kind of a neighborhood street and discussing, where and how people can bike and transit through these different areas without having to take vehicles. And they set up, food trucks and music and it's something that's pretty cool. I still have such a hard time. I was driving back home today from the office and I was like, man, it'd be nice if I made some just commitment to myself. Like, I'm only biking for the month of June. I'm not going to take my car unless XYZ, or taking one car and then using public transportation and biking, kind of to and from type deal. But essentially it just shows what Fort Collins can do without vehicles, and it closes down a street, and that's going to be on September 14th. Neighborhood to be determined. They usually pick out like one neighborhood and shut down. It's only about like a half mile of street, but they shut it absolutely down.
And I've never specifically done that, but I rode my bike all throughout college when I was here at CSU. And in terms of bikeability, Fort Collins is as good as it gets. Now that I'm over in West Greeley, we still got trails. We still got great areas to ride a bike. But if you want to actually traverse the city, Fort Collins is much better set up for that than a lot of the Front Range cities around us.
Yeah, speaking about the trails all the way to Greeley, Cooter Trail will officially connect. It should connect early 2025. And the last connection, I believe, is between Timnath and Windsor, which then will have a 45-mile uninterrupted trail from Bellevue to Greeley. So that's a pretty hefty ride. If you're going, like, if you're just going for a workout, you know, they call them century rides on cycles. I mean, you're getting pretty dang close if you went the entire route, the 90 miles back and forth, but 45 miles, pretty crazy. Tour de Corgi. That's kind of an interesting one. And, you know, don't need to spend too much time. I mean, if you have a Corgi, probably something fun. I've never been, but it is a big deal in Fort Collins. Colorado Brewers Festival, Fort Collins Peach Festival, farmers markets during the winter. If you haven't been to the Foothills Mall during one of their farmers markets, it's really pretty cool. But definitely come with, you know, your pocketbook ready to spend, because there's some fun stuff down there. That's kind of all the to-dos. Oh, last two. Horsetooth Half Marathon, April 13th. It's a big deal. Not for me. I don't run. And then the Colorado Marathon a couple weeks later on May 4th, which runs down the Cashlaputer River. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of people who come to the Colorado Marathon to set times for entry into other marathons, because it's essentially a downhill marathon as you're going down. I think it's Highway 14. Is that could be right? I think
that sounds right.
And so it's something where people can set times, get really good marathon times. So it's actually like an event where a lot of like pretty decent runners come out to set, you know, good times for themselves. So that's kind of all the to-dos in 2025 for now. You know, there's plenty of others to come up, but Caleb, what am I missing? Am I missing anything?
Nothing too big. Let me scroll through. You've got CSU can back up with home games this fall for football, which those are always good community events since we've got the on-campus stadium. Outside of that, you'll have other good CSU related activities. I do a lot of stuff on that student front still. But outside of that, you covered a lot of the important events.
Yeah, homecoming, always a fun time during in and around CSU. Spending time downtown, going to Bohemian Nights. Bohemian Nights doesn't exist, but I should say Thursday night concerts down in Old Town, and, you know, just really leveraging all of the weekly. So those are kind of the big hitters that we went over, but definitely on like a weekly basis. And that's obviously why we do this live on a weekly basis, is to try to stay up to date with what's happening on a weekly basis for those kind of smaller events that you could do. 2025 is it's, you know, there's not any like major home run hitters as far as developments go. But let's go through some of the developments that are going to be taking place and possibly being approved. Like Martin Lynn's Greeley Hotel. He is hopefully going to be on the podcast, Fort Collins Fellows podcast, sooner than later. But we scheduled it for him to record in late February, because by that time he should have final approval from Weld County, which I just happened to go to a basketball game with the Weld County planning director, and it sounds like Weld County's pretty excited about that. So it sounds like that could very much be a go. So that's a big deal. King Soopers opening up January 29th. 120 some odd thousand square foot facility. Kmart sat vacant for like a decade. So it's just nice to see that. And I was like, you don't see many shuttered buildings, but Kmart in the middle of town, essentially on Drake and College, being shuttered for a decade was wild. But King Soopers is opening up. And then on the south side, there was a gas station that submitted a planned development review. And there's going to be 4 parcels where that Spradley bar is. So there should be some development taking place there here pretty soon.
Awesome.
Now this is one, maybe, you know, Amazon is apparently set to open in 2025. That's the 3 million square foot facility off of I-25 near the Windsor exit, south of the Windsor exit. But my understanding, and the Coloradoan didn't get any type of updates from Amazon since like early 2024. And actually, my understanding is that it could remain vacant for a while, whether that be business for Amazon, but that it could remain vacant for a while, which that's 1,000 jobs that Fort Collins in Northern Colorado is relatively expecting.
Yeah, I heard delays potentially until the end of the year. I don't know if that's true or not. Nothing verified. People that were working out there that I've got some connections with gave us that relayed information. It's crazy to me that Amazon can pump that amount of money in, but I think they're extremely bullish on the market, and so they know they're going to need the work here.
Well, I think so. And then I don't know, again, this is kind of hearsay, but it's like they actually have a few of these facilities throughout the United States that are just sitting vacant because they don't have, whether it's the need yet, but maybe, planning for the future. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I would have to
Yeah.
imagine how, the percent of people's Christmas presents shopped for and delivered by Amazon would have to be pretty high.
Mine was probably 50% across the board, so I bet a lot of people are similar.
Sure. Ladera taking, really starting to take shape at Harmony and I-25, possibly In-N-Out Burger breaking ground this year. A barbecue place, a Dazbog Coffee is supposed to be there. Other businesses, a hotel is going to be breaking ground, a La Quinta Inn. It doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. But I believe it's kind of an affordable option for people to live there because like a lot of people who I would say we worked with a lot of clients who've moved to the area and there's some medium term rentals around that kind of Timnath area. It's a great spot that you're close to everything and really close to I-25. So
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. What else am I missing? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was looking at this, and it was crazy how much money they're pumping into the blue or the ranch complex in over by Blue Arena. I mean, here, listen to some of these numbers: $60 to $80 million for a renovation of the Blue Arena, $40 million renovation of the Peterson Toyota Center for a youth hockey facility, $35 million expansion of the Great Lawn, where they could have a 2,500 square seat outdoor amphitheater, $2 million addition of a premium lounge at Blue Arena, $10 million addition of new wayfinding features. It's wild to me how expensive signage is.
Oh yeah.
And then a construction of a hotel room right there. So which is super interesting because I was under the impression that when Martin Lynn pulled out of his like plans for the development of the Windsor and Blue Arena that was going to kind of go away, but apparently Larimer County is very much into pumping money into Blue Arena and the ranch complex, in addition to Martin Lynn's hotel, water attraction, whatever that's going to be in Greeley. So big things coming to Blue Arena.
That's a good one too. I think at least with my math on Greeley, we're expected to double up to 250,000 residents by about 2050. So I think if anything, Martin Lind is going to cater primarily to that Greeley corridor, that Weld County corridor. And I think Larimer County, although they're probably going to lose the Eagles to that new facility, still want to utilize this in terms of driving revenue. So I think now's their time to do so and to kind of rebrand, since the Eagles have always been the darling of the arena over there. I think they're still a great venue and they're going to pump money in just so they can continue to compete on that front.
Sure. Just like Cirque du Soleil that's going to go there.
Yeah.
All these events. I mean, to your point with the growth of Greeley and Weld County and Northern Colorado, we've seen some pretty decent event, performances and acts come through Northern Colorado. So I'll have to imagine with that economy of the entirety of Northern Colorado, not just Fort Collins or whatever, that they can market to bigger events.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot, whether you live in Fort Collins or Loveland or Timnath or whatever. If you live in the Front Range, you really have access to all of these pretty sweet things. So it doesn't really matter. I come from Greeley every day, that half-hour commute. And if you want to get to an event, there's tons of good stuff going on around us.
Yep. One thing I didn't know that was happening, and I'm curious about how it's going to take shape, but a 14,000 square foot children's museum at the Yards in Loveland, which is really hard for me to say because I want to say the outlets at Loveland, but it's been rebranded. I mean, they've got some tenants there. I think they've got like Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
They've got a few tenants that are coming back into that spot, which is huge. I mean, you'd have to imagine US 34 and I-25, basically a crossroads of Greeley, Fort Collins, and Loveland and Windsor, that corridor is just an economic heaven. But
Hmm.
with the Loveland Outlet as being basically like a ghost town for a decade. But shoot, they have a 14,000 square foot potential children's museum going to be there, Gold's Gym. There's, I don't know what other, that'd be a fun place to go do kind of like just a quick video of like an update. That would be a good person on the podcast.
Yeah, it would.
That
But
would
I
be,
think you're right. Too good of a spot for things to not be happening there. So even though it's been slow and steady and the turnover's taking a while, I think that's going to blow up. Give it 5 years and it's going to feel like the outlets again.
yeah, because it used to be like a place that you would actually go shopping. Like there was,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
regularly.
the Coach there, Coach Outlet,
Yep.
Nike Outlet was there. I mean, it was. Now it's like you drive, like you used to for like the last 5 years. You drive by and like, this is sad.
Yeah, pretty empty. No cars.
Pickleball is coming. There could be potentially up to 3 different major facilities coming. There could be the Pickler going on over near Jessup Farms. There could be there's a kind of it's called off of Innovation Drive by Cruz Elementary, but it could have like 11. Okay, here we go. 11 indoor and 6 outdoor pickleball courts. So it's kind of a redevelopment of that building, but which would be pretty cool. And then potentially City of Fort Collins building an outdoor pickleball complex. I'm sure it would be given the go or no go this year, either at Spring Canyon or Fossil Creek Park. Fossil Creek Park is kind of leading the way. So your boy might have to pick up pickleball if it's got some of the best courts in town out my back door.
You better. Through the Fellowship of Christian Athletes here in town that works with both CSU and Greeley. I've got some connections there, and I'm playing in a pickleball tournament February 1st. So better come join.
I've played one time. It was humbling. Let's see here. Let's go through a few others. Am I missing anything on your side of things?
Nothing too drastic.
Okay. One thing I'm excited about, I'm excited to see what happens, if anything, at the Fort Collins-Loveland Airport. They just opened that $25 million terminal with 2 gates. I believe at this point have widened the runway to allow for larger planes. I think the last thing that needs to take place is the tower, whether that be virtual or physical. But man, we just had our family in town, and we had to take them. We just took them we've been using groom transportation a lot, or I should say they've been using groom transportation a lot, which has been nice. They've, get dropped off at the Harmony Transit Center. Mm-hmm. And, but we just talked about, man, it'd be nice if that trip back to Hollywood Burbank Airport was back up and running, because we only got to take like 2 or 3 flights, but it was super nice. And I'm hopeful that sooner than later, talking about like that economic growth and all that kind of stuff, Fort Collins, Colorado, and Northern Colorado, Weld, Greeley, all that good stuff, allows for a commercial airline to make a mainstay here rather than just a puddle jump for a few months.
Yeah, no, I think it could. We just flew back from Tri-Cities, Washington, which is kind of a similar concept as kind of your Greeley, Loveland, Fort Collins area. Same thing up there. And there's a small regional airport that does direct flights through United. And we were talking about how convenient that would be if we could connect at Loveland. Denver still works great. It's less than an hour away from us personally in Greeley, but Loveland would be fantastic.
Yes. A couple residential developments that are fully taking shape. We just did a couple deals with Bloom over on Mulberry. Excited about that project to continue to take shape. Maybe their commercial development starts to take shape a little bit along Mulberry, which is exciting. Saunders, we've got Lennar that's being built over there by Hanson Farm in the reserve at Timberline on the southeast side of Fort Collins. Montava apparently will have phase 1 begin in 2025. DPZ, who is associated with Montava, says that approval of phase 1 is underway and will begin construction in 2025. And that was as of it was their holiday newsletter, which was written in December of 2024. So it's actually a relatively recent update on Montava, which, until that thing is like vertical, I don't believe it's ever going to take shape.
Yeah.
I feel like
in terms of providing housing, I think that's a big step in the right direction. Should it take shape? That one's massive for everybody.
Well, I mean, it's a 1,000-acre development, and I think it's like eventually, when it's all said and done, expected to have 30,000 residents,
Hmm.
living there. So that's like one of those game changers of an area of town
Yeah.
if it takes place. And I mean, like they're always been out there, like, they got dirt moving and they've got problems left and right. So it seems like they're pretty intentional about making it move forward. But if we see something go vertical this year, that would be pretty cool. Well, Caleb, I don't have much else. I'm shocked that it only went 30 minutes, but we didn't have much city council to dive into today or anything along those lines. But hopefully, some things to do. Put on your calendar. One thing that actually, big thing to do if you are in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. The Recreator. You have signups. I believe it's like today, tomorrow, and then Wednesday for adults, kids, youth, summer camps. They each have an individual sign-up day for that spring season. Now, summer's not necessarily signed up for yet. That'll come out in a few months for summer. But I circled a few swim lessons and flag football for Nola. I'm gonna try to get her into some flag football. She
All right.
doesn't have the best eye-hand coordination. We'll have to figure that out, but she is fast as fast can be. So
Oh yeah.
we'll get her going. But if you are interested in doing that, that is something that, it fills up pretty quickly. Now, we actually, to, Caleb's point, my brother-in-law is playing flag football in Greeley. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to drive that long every day for flag football. But Windsor, Loveland, Fort Collins, like all of these different recreational opportunities. And if you aren't living in the area, like if you don't have a Windsor address, you just don't get the benefit of the reduced price. So if you're a Windsor resident, instead of $40 for the season, it might be $60 for the season. It's still very affordable. So if you have some type of reason, friends or family, like for us, it's my in-laws or my sister and then brother-in-law, their kids live in Windsor, so they want to be a part of the Windsor Rec Sports. And so we've been doing the last few years. So you can absolutely look at all of the different recreation programs out there. You might just have to pay a premium if you don't have that city or locality's address. All righty. Well, Caleb, appreciate you joining. As always, you're looking great. We're excited for 2025, and everybody else have a great rest of your day.
Heck yeah. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Oh, gotta press this button.